Hi, so today I want to talk about two experiences I had that I just recently connected the dots and tied everything together. So, if you are experiencing something similar, I hope this video will help you because the first initial phase that I went through, the first thing I turned to was YouTube. I literally searched in what is a spiritual awakening, and there was a video that had like the phases of a spiritual awakening, and I was like, oh, maybe this is the journey I'm about to take, and like the initial phase of that. So it really helped me just put some structure around this new experience, and made me feel like I wasn't crazy for going through all these things, because a spiritual awakening and artistic awakening can look very different for everyone. You have your own individual experience, but there are some similar overarching phases I think that most people can resonate with and find comfort in the fact that you're not alone and you're not crazy, you're being super weird. Like, this is a pretty common phenomenon for people on this path. So that is the point of this video. And one common thread for me, which I guess was probably pretty unique to my journey, at the time I had a hippie van. And so for both my spiritual awakening and my artistic awakening, the common thread between the two, or like the main indicator in my external reality, was my van would break down significantly. So we'll get into all that. But yes, I just want to lay out the different phases. And if you resonate or have experiences with this, I would love to hear about how your unique journey was shaped and formed. But starting out with both spiritual, artistic, it's all kind of one and the same. I'm coming to realize now I'd, compartmentalized both of them. But then I was thinking, I was like, wait, no. For me, my spiritual path has led to my artistic path, and now they're just blended together and complement each other very well. So they're one and the same for me. But the first phase, I was really curious for both. So I was curious about spirituality. I was curious about art and art history, and just like that thirst for knowledge and the research phase and just wanting to know more, I think is a very common initiation. Like, you have to have that curiosity, or just that little spark of, ooh, maybe there's something else out there for me, or just that curiosity to go down a new path, or the path less traveled, if you will. So for my spiritual awakening, that looked like, I mentioned my journaling video. My sister and I went to Michael's, bought our cute little journals, came home, and just honestly binge watched some of our YouTubers that we really resonated with, that were presenting, really educational content about these new spiritual concepts that at the time we had no idea and we're just really fascinated by. So we were taking notes and like learning all these things, expanding our horizons and consciousness, what have you. So that was honestly kind of fun. And same with the artistic side of it. I was dragging friends, family, boyfriends at the time, whoever would say yes to the local art museum. So any new city I was in, I would go check out the local art museum. I had mentioned this previously in another video too. I found comfort in watching art history videos and learning about other artists and their journey, probably because it resonated on some level with me. Little did I know I was an artist at that time, which is funny because, you know, 2 or 3 years ago, if you'd have met me in, everyday reality and asked me if I was an artist, I would have said no. I wouldn't have even said, oh, yeah, I make art, or I'm an artist. I would have literally not even said that. And same thing with my spiritual path. I was almost ashamed isn't the right word, but I was like hiding it. I was very in the closet, if you will, for my spirituality, just because it was different. Like, especially when you're walking, again, you're on a journey, on a path that's different from society or your family and friends and people around you. At first, when, you're just being initiated into this new identity of self, it's a little intimidating to just come out of of your shell and be like, this is who I am. So Yeah, I was in a little bit of a hermit mode, if you will, which is another common thing, especially during the research. Like my sister and I would jokingly be like, I just want to hermit away and watch, and research and read all our spiritual texts and, deep dive down the rabbit holes, if you will. So I think that's pretty common in the first phase. The second phase gets way more interesting and can look very different for many people, but it's the ego death, which dark night of the soul. There's different terminologies for it, and it can be more a collective experience too, in the fact that your big identity pillars. So that could look like a change of jobs or change of homes, change in relationships. Like those main human experiences will definitely be shaken and stirred a bit. So mine personally, like I said, looked like my hippie van breaking down, which was my home. And then for this specific ego death, my home broke down. I lost my online teaching job at the time, and my physical body, I got bit by an ant on my face. So my face was swollen all within like 48 hours. So I was like, perfect. So, I'm a very, when life gives you lemons, make lemonade type of girl. And I soothed, or I probably was a form of escapism looking back, but I went to concerts. I dabbled with a bit of plant medicine at that time and published my first poetry collection. Obviously, honestly, like I don't know how that timing aligned, but I was just thinking while I'm at rock bottom, I might as well just put my work, my art out into the world. And I honestly had a great time. And through all those experiences, there was a certain point I had my Kundalini awakening. So I always have to remind myself, because you're gonna ride different waves throughout your life. And so I have to remind myself what I thought was my apparent rock bottom. For me personally, it was one of the most enlightening times of my life because I had that Kundalini awakening and just gained a lot of insight spiritually, and was facing my visibility wounds with releasing my poetry collection. So even though it was seemingly chaos on the surface, deep down it was very, very transformative and an enlightening experience for me personally. And then fast forward a few years later with the art journey, my ego death was again circling around that. I don't know why artists, I know I'm not the only one, but I don't know why artists are so cautious or hesitant to say that they're an artist. But around that time, I went to Paris and came back with my broken down van yet again. This time it was, first time was the transmission, then it was the alternator, or what have you. It was in the shop for a very long time. But, it allowed me that space to open the new door of this identity of maybe I am an artist. Maybe I can pursue this. And, sometimes you do need those pillars of stability that you've been relying on for so long to be taken away for you to realize, oh, maybe there's a new one here. Maybe there's something new to uncover. So that ego death led me to, or just like was pushing me to, lean into that identity shift, if you will, of, oh, maybe I can do this. Maybe I can be on the artist path and, claim that as one of my identities. And then the third phase, which I talked about in another video, is the channeling. And I use the word channeling. I go to channeling conferences, and that's what resonates with me. But it's, it has many different languages. It's just like prayer has many different languages, prayer, meditation, what have you. Channeling for me is just allowing yourself to surrender to the divine forces that you believe in, you subscribe to flow through you and, produce your art, give you spiritual insight, just, surrendering to the flow of life essentially is how I view channeling. And for spirituality, I'd spoken previously about, my clairaudience was opening up, my clear sight was opening up, and just trusting and relying, not relying, but like having more confidence in those spiritual gifts, and also translating that into artist language, just trusting your art and what is pouring through you. And this one that I have on my desk, I don't know if I can see, I'll put it up on the screen. But this dragon, I try not to panic, but being like a former reformed worrywart and control freak, I was just worried. I was like, I don't know how I'm going to make this dragon. Like, I have no idea. I had a white one, I had a black one, I had different eye shapes, I had all these different reference photos. And I was like, the one I want to make is not here in front of me. So I didn't know how this one was going to come through for me. But I just was able to tap into that flow state. I normally use my charcoal pencils, and for this one I used willow sticks. I love willow trees, and I feel like they have a special connection with me. And I have these willow sticks that I have not background knowledge of. I just bought them one day because there was a horse on the cover and I liked it. But I just started using them in a different way, and it helped me create this like textured pattern that I was like, oh, that's my dragon. That's the black and the white and the gray and everything in between. And that like marbly, I love marbly, like I love agates. I love just that textured material and blending of the two. So just allowing yourself to open up that channel for whatever needs to flow through you for your most authentic expression of self, whether that be, again, for like spiritual insights or creativity or just saying what you need to say. It can take many different forms. So just being open and surrendering to that is number 3. Number 4 is one of the most important ones. And if you are, in spiritual communities or therapy, what have you, this word's been thrown around a lot, and it's taken me a few years to fully realize the importance and understand what it means fully. I'm still learning, but it's integration. Because one of the hardest things is, if you have a mystical experience, like I had with my Kundalini awakening, my ayahuasca, I've had these like very surreal almost experiences that are hard to translate back into reality. But that's the most important piece, because if you can't bring it back to share with the world and help the collective and live through you, what's the point? Then it just feels like a dream, and it slips through your fingers in the blink of an eye. So that integration piece is really, really important. And same for artists, because a lot of times we have these big visions and we can see things in our mind's eye and our imagination, but if you can't tether that to reality, it's going to be hard to share with the world. So integration is the 4th phase that I think is really important. And again, I'm still learning and working on it and forming a structure for myself. But that's why I'm so passionate about people connecting with their creative selves, because I think it's a huge, huge piece of that, integrating it into your everyday reality, especially for these types of experiences that I think a lot of us have had and will continue to have. And it's important to be able to share those and express yourself. And, I think that's what ultimately leads to a more fulfilled life. And the 5th one, kind of along the same lines as that, is community, which again is still blossoming in my life in very beautiful ways. But finding that spiritual community, connecting with your local community as an artist, finding other artists, other creatives, other people that you can just brainstorm and share and feel safe around, I think is very important to your transformative process. Because a lot of the times when people go through spiritual awakenings, or even artists, that are like have that fear of being seen still, it's the fear of being perceived almost. And so just finding that community that can provide a safe container with you, but that you can also share and give back to. And it's that reciprocal relationship that I think can be really beautiful. So for me, that's looked like like I said, I go to channeling conferences, the plant medicine experiences, just connecting with the people that are in resonance and like on a similar spiritual journey has been very important. And if you just set the intention, I remember writing in my journals, I was like, I'm looking for my soul tribe, and just setting that intention is really important, and it'll find you. It will find you. And you just have to, have patience. I'm a very impatient person sometimes. So there was definitely moments when I didn't think that that was a reality. And then, waking up now in my everyday, I'm like, oh my gosh, like it's slowly but surely been manifesting over time, and the right people will find you at the right time. So, and then for my artist community, I'm obviously in Boston, and I know it can be a little tricky if you're not in a big city sometimes, but every city I work in the airline, so like I've traveled a lot. Every city has, art museums with events or galleries. So just being curious and open to those types of experiences. I've even done, branched out into other mediums. I've gone to pottery classes, digital art classes, figure drawing classes, and connecting with artists. You never know who you're going to meet at those type of events. And then there also, Boston has more community art studios. So like I have my private art studio here in like this artist guild, and I know there's other studios that have community memberships where you can, bop in and out as you please and just have a shared creative space with people. So my microphone died for my conclusion. I didn't want to leave y'all hanging. But in conclusion of, this, whether you're on the spiritual path, the artistic path, or both, is the bottom line is you're not alone. And honestly, that's the whole reason I started this YouTube channel, was to make videos and the messages and, the things that I needed to hear or like wish that I would have heard in the beginning phases. So if you are in the beginning phase, if you've been walking your walk for decades, what have you, I hope this resonates and gives you a little bit of comfort to know that, not to go all High School Musical, but we're all in this together, and, to just keep going. And I'm so proud of you because it's hard. It's not the easiest option. You can keep doing what society has subscribed for all of us to do, or you can walk your own path. So I'm just super proud of you, and I can't wait to hear about your individual process and just that unique experience, because I've listed the collective phases, but I know that each individual has had unique experiences, and I would love to hear in the comments. And thanks for watching.